to be presented by Professor Rotimi Aluko. I have the honor of reading the citation of our guest speaker. Dr. Rotimi Aluko is a professor and Tier 1 Canada Research Chair, Bioactive Peptides in the Department of Food and Human Nutritional Sciences, University of Manitoba, Winnipeg, Canada, where he also serves as Director of the Richardson Center for Food Technology and Research. He graduated with a BSc Biochemistry from the University of Lagos in 1982 and MSc Biochemistry from Ahmadu Bello University, Zaria in 1985. From 1986 to 1991, Professor Aluko worked as an Assistant Research Fellow in the Food Science and Technology Program, Department of Plant Science, ABU Zaria. In 1991, he started his PhD in Food Science Program at the University of Guelph, Ontario, Canada, and graduated in 1996. From 1996 to 1998, he worked as a postdoctoral fellow in the Department of Food Science, University of Guelph. Professor Aluko joined Agriculture and Agri-Food Canada Saskatoon Research Center in 1998, where he worked as a research scientist for food protein utilization for 3 years. In 2001, he moved to the University of Manitoba as an assistant professor. He was promoted as a professor in 2006, and he became a full professor in 2010. He has 25 years of research experience as an independent investigator with a focus on the structure, function, properties of food proteins and peptides. His research grants record as a principal investigator exceeds $12 million US. In addition to 295 peer-reviewed journal article publications, he holds 2 patents on bioactive peptides, one of which was licensed to a Canadian nutraceutical company for the purpose of commercialization. Professor Aluko has produced over 100 trainees in all categories, including undergraduate, graduate, and postdoctoral researchers. The American Chemical Society has featured novel scientific discoveries from his lab twice, in 2009 and 2018, as global press releases, including the discovery of novel antihypertensive peptides and beta taste blocking peptides, respectively. Professor Aluko has been recognized in multiple years, including 2022, by Clarivate Analytics as a highly cited researcher in top 0.1% of world scientists, with citation record in the top 1% globally. His corpus record shows about 13,800 citations, Google about 18,900 with H index of 65, and Google 72. Dr. Aluko has served as a grant review committee member and grant application assessor, including student scholarships for several categories, such as Australia, Canada, Ireland, India, New Zealand, Israel, European Union, Poland, South Africa, US, just to mention a few. In 2022, Professor Aluko received the American Oil Chemists Society Lifetime Achievement Award for outstanding research work in proteins and co-products. He has received the University of Manitoba Merit Award for outstanding achievements in research and service in 6 different years. He has been inducted as a fellow of several food science and nutrition professional organizations, including the Canadian Institute of Food Science and Technology, Institute of Food Technologies, AOCS, International Society for Nutraceuticals and Functional Foods, and the International Academy of Food Science and Technology. Professor Aluko currently serves as editor-in-chief of the Journal of Food Chemistry or Food Biochemistry and associate editor of current topics in nutraceutical research. Before I welcome Professor Aluko to make his presentation, I'll briefly introduce the chairman. The chairman for this webinar is Professor D.J. Kala from Department of Animal Production at Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University, Bauchi. Professor Kala is a fellow of Animal Science Association of Nigeria, fellow of Nigerian Society for Animal Production, and a fellow of other societies. He is a member of National Research Fund for TED Fund. So I welcome Professor Rotimi Aluko for his presentation. You are welcome, sir.
Okay, thank you so much, Dr. Soeton, for the wonderful introduction. I'm going to try and share my slides, of course, so that you can follow my. I think I need permission to share my slides. You need to make me a co-host. It's not allowing me to share the slides.
Dr. Yabo?
Yeah, now you can.
Prof, you can share your slides now.
Okay. So can you see my slide?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. Again, thank you so much for the wonderful introduction. And I want to thank the organizers of this webinar for inviting me to give this short presentation. I must say upfront that what I'm about to tell you or give you is based on my personal experience as committee member or grant review, external grant review member for various committees over the past 25 years. And so it doesn't mean that this is a standard, protocol, but basically these are my own personal ideas based on my experience, not only as a committee member, but as a grant reviewer for several organizations. So please, note that very well. It doesn't mean that if you follow all this advice that you will always be successful in your grant applications. Unfortunately, that's not the case. I can tell you that even myself, I don't have 100% success in grant applications. But what this does is basically to enhance the potential for you to be successful in your grant applications. Okay, so let's get going with it. First of all, I'm just going to change my pointer. Okay. So before I start, I need to make this as it is required as part of our initiative to acknowledge the harms of the past in Canada. So I wish to let you know that I'm a member of the University of Manitoba, and I work on the campuses that are located on original lands of the Anishinaabe, Cree, Ojibwe, Dakota, and Dene peoples, and on the homeland of the Métis Nation. We respect the treaties that were made on these territories. We acknowledge the harms and mistakes of the past, and we dedicate ourselves to move forward in partnership with indigenous communities in a spirit of reconciliation and collaboration. So, part of this presentation, I remember I gave part of this presentation some time ago to Edo State University. So you might find, if you attended that webinar, you might find some of these a little bit familiar. But in any case, some simple definitions. What's a research grant? Basically, a research grant is money that is given to an individual or a team or an organization for conducting a particular research using, a particular research, usually through a competitive process. Sorry for that typo. Should be usually through a competitive process. What do you mean by research itself? I'm sure we all know what is research. Research simply means the systematic investigation into and the study of materials and sources in order to establish facts and reach new conclusions. So bear in mind, I've underlined the keywords here. In the first tab here, I've underlined the word competitive. Okay, and I'll mention this again later on. You have to remember that when you apply for a grant application, it's a competition, all right? And therefore, put at the back of your mind. So you have other people who are applying to the same grant application. So, and then a research should establish facts and of course, reach new conclusions. Okay, the word new is very important, all right? What is a fellowship? A fellowship generally refers to a monetary award given to a scholar to pay for his or her academic pursuits. A fellowship is typically a merit-based scholarship for advanced study of an academic subject. I took this from usnews.com, all right? Now, the key word here is merit-based. So again, note that if you are applying for a fellowship, all right, it is based on merit. Apart from being competitive, it is based on merit. So if you want to access, opportunities for research grants, all right, it is actually quite easier these days compared to the days before the internet. I'm sure many of my colleagues here who were active researchers before the internet will tell you that you have to go to the library, you have to use books, but now you can actually sit in your room or in your phone, access the internet, and actually search for funding opportunities. So please note that this is a very, very easy period to look for funding opportunities and take advantage of that. Okay. And so when you find a funding opportunity, of course, you need to create an account. Very important to download and read the eligibility criteria. What are the eligibility criteria? What do you need to have to be considered, or for your application to be considered for this research or funding opportunity? So note the eligibility criteria. You need to note the application procedure, all right? What do you need to do to submit your application? What does the application itself consist of, all right? You must be very, very conversant with the application procedure, otherwise your application may not be considered. Of course, very important is the application deadline. I remember that, if they say 12 p.m. on June 30th, okay, if you submit your application at 12:01, your application will not be accepted. So please, deadline is very, very important, all right? And because a lot of applications these days are, internet-based, you have to remember that you might have network failure, okay? And therefore, it is very important for you not to wait to the last minute, okay, to try and submit your application, all right? What if your network fails and you can't submit, okay, very quickly, all right? So give at least yourself 24 hours, okay, before the deadline to submit your application. Note the application requirements, all right? For example, there are some funding opportunities that require matching funds, okay? That is, you must obtain additional funding from other sources, all right? So you need to know the application requirements. Now, the funding level, okay? Remember that a funding application, all right, or a funding opportunity usually, okay, will have, most of them will have like a maximum that you can request, all right? Now, this maximum you can request, is this sufficient for your goals? So if you have a research goal, a research program that is going to cost you $100,000, dollars, and the maximum funding allowable for this opportunity is only $50,000, then there's no need for you to apply, all right? Because of course, you're not going to get sufficient money, all right, to do the work, all right? So what are the opportunities in terms of looking for research grants? Now, we have different types of research opportunities, okay? We have the operating grants, okay? These operating grants, they cover, okay, the cost of day-to-day activities like materials and supplies, salaries, or student stipends, travel, minor equipment, and other allowable expenses. You also have infrastructure grants. Infrastructure grant can cover construction of buildings or construction of new labs, or renovation of labs, all right? It can cover the purchase of major equipment, okay? HPLC, mass spec, all right? NMR, okay? These are huge investments, all right? So definitely sometimes there are some research grant applications that will focus mostly or mainly on infrastructure, okay? Like I said, you can also, apply for building renovations. It is an infrastructure grant, okay? It can also, pay for you to acquire land, especially for people in agriculture. Maybe you want to, your research involves, planting or cultivation, and so you need to pay for the land. All right. The infrastructure grant will cover the cost of purchasing a land or a vehicle. All right, to rent or to actually, buy. And of course, we have some, research grants that are specifically for training. I'm not sure of Nigeria, but this is very common in Canada, and the United States, where some types of research opportunities are simply for you as a faculty member, as a professor, to apply, but strictly the money you get, okay, is to pay, okay, students to work for you. You cannot use that money for any other thing. You can't use to buy materials. You cannot use to travel. You cannot use to do anything. It's simply to hire students and pay them. All right. You will need to look for money, okay, to cover all the other laboratory expenses. All right. So we also have such grants, very, very common here. Now, of course, so those are the types of grants. It's not exhaustive, but those are the major types of categories of grant applications that you may come across. Now, so let's talk about now in terms of how are you competitive? How can you be competitive, okay, in writing your grant application? Again, remember, if you remember, my first bullet says that this is a competitive process, it's a competition, all right? And therefore, the fact that you can write a good application does not only mean that you're going to be successful, because remember, there are other people who are also submitting grant applications. So it is a competition, all right? Now, so how do you want to make your application really very, very competitive? The first one, of course, is very, very obvious, the title. The title is very, very important, all right? Because it must convey an accurate reflection of the goals and the outcomes of your grant application, all right? A reader, a committee member should look at your title and have a fairly very good idea of what you want to do, all right? If your title is confusing, if your title has, grammatical errors, or, is very, very, it's not very clear, all right, then immediately you create a bias in the mind of the reviewers. Okay, title, this person cannot even write a title cannot create a title very well. How do we trust that person with lots of money? So please take time to craft your title very well, to be meaningful and to have an accurate reflection of the goals and the outcomes of your proposal. Now, in terms of the background information, again, remember that most grant applications will ask you to give them an idea of what has been done in that area of work. What is the background literature, all right? And therefore, you must tell the committee what is the current state of knowledge, all right? Okay, what has been done? Then you can progress to what is missing, because now you have told us what has been done, all right? And based on what has been done, you have identified what is missing, okay, which now you want to address, all right? So that gives a very, very clear indication to the reviewer or the committee member, okay, saying that, oh yeah, you know what? This proposal is new because we now know that this area that has been, proposed has not been done before. All right, because you have covered very well the state of knowledge by telling the committee what has been done. All right, and so what is missing is what you are addressing. Okay, you also need to indicate why is this research necessary. All right, okay, is it urgent? Do we really need to do this research? All right, is it innovative? Okay. One of the main parts that committee members look at when they, look at application, especially in this area of my world here, is two types of research applications. We have the horizontal and the vertical. The horizontal simply means that, oh yeah, we have done this before. I'm just trying to add to the knowledge. Okay, I'm trying to expand the knowledge by simply adding to what has been done. That is horizontal type of knowledge, right? But what is most important that committee members look for is the vertical type of proposal, vertical knowledge, whereby you are creating new knowledge. You are branching out of what is already known, and now you are doing experiments to create new knowledge, new information, okay, that is very, very useful. You're not just simply, piggyback, on what has been done before, all right? You might use what has been done before as the basis for your work, but from what has been done before, you are proposing to create new knowledge, okay, that is totally new, all right? That is vertical knowledge. And so try as much as possible to focus on creating new knowledge rather than the horizontal type of knowledge, okay? So the objectives, of course, after you provide the background information, all right, now the objectives again are very, very important because the objectives must be very clear, all right? They must be straight to the point. They must not be confusing, all right? So you have two types of objectives. You have the long-term objective or the short-term objective. Usually the long-term objective is in cases where, for example, you intend to come back and ask for a renewal of the application. So you're asking for money to do a researching for 3 years, but after 3 years, you intend to come back, all right, and ask for another 3 years to continue. So in that case, then you must have a long-term objective. It's okay, at the end, okay, of these objectives, all right, or at the end of this work, after 6 to 9 years, all right, these are the goals I want to achieve. So long term is usually again for, in cases where you need to come back and, ask for more money. But in most cases, what is relevant are short-term objectives. The short-term objectives gives the committee or the reviewers an idea of exactly what you intend to achieve within the funding period. So if the funding period is 3 years, 4 years, the short-term objectives tells them, all right, what exactly you are going to do or achieve in those 3 or 4 years. So again, very important for it to be, straightforward. Your objective must be realistic. Okay, again, remember, because there's a time limit, all right? If you propose objectives that I know as a researcher myself, that you can never finish this in 4 years, then, basically your proposal is, is dead in the waters. Because I'll say, look, even though the proposal is great, but the objective of this proposal can never be realized within the time frame of the funding period. And therefore, I cannot approve the proposal, all right, because the work is never going to be done, all right? So again, your objectives must be realistic. Now, again, there are two types of objectives. You can have the high risk for big reward, whereby really, you are telling the committee, yeah, this has not been done before. It's a high risk, but if it is successful, and I have a basis to tell you that it is successful, it's going to be successful, the reward is very big. All right. Now, then you also have the low risk or small reward. All right. So basically, you are being very careful. You want to stay within, what you can call a safe area of working. All right. Now, Again, both of them can be funded, but remember, it's a competition, right? So if I read an application and I see that it's a high risk, but okay, there's convincing evidence provided by the applicant that even though it's a high risk, if this is successful and I have a basis to say it is going to be successful, the reward is huge. I will prefer to recommend an application for funding than an application that is just very safe, is low risk, but really the reward is not great. So again, the choice is yours, but remember it's a competition, all right? If you're going to propose a high risk, work, make sure you back it up, okay, with evidence that it is going to be successful, all right? Or you have risk, mitigators, okay? How are you going to mitigate such risk if the experiment fails, all right? But high risk, big reward, very, very favorable, okay, when it comes to funding applications, all right? Now, is your objective feasible? Again, remember I mentioned, can it be completed within the time frame of the grant, all right? You cannot propose something that will never finish, okay, within the time frame of the application. And again, very important, your objectives. Are you creating knowledge or you're simply adding to knowledge, all right? Okay, against the competition, all right? If I see an application that is going to create new knowledge, okay, I'll prefer to fund it than an application that is just going to add to knowledge, all right? So again, very important to think of, ways to create new knowledge. But that is how, as a society, that's how we grow, okay? That's how we develop, okay? If we just stay on the same type of knowledge all the time, we'll never have all the gadgets we have. We don't have cell phones. Okay, we will not have computers, all right? So creation of new knowledge, okay, is really very attractive, okay, for funding. All right. So now, of course, the second part of your application has to do with experimental approach or your methodology, which simply is giving the committee or the reviewer a roadmap, okay, for you to succeed, okay? Because you have a nice literature review, you have a nice objective, but then now tell me, how are you going to realize this objectives? And that is where your experimental approach and methodology comes into play, okay? It is recommended, it is not compulsory, okay? But in my opinion, okay, this is how I write my applications. It is recommended, provide a hypothesis for each experiment, all right? Because in that way, it helps reviewers who are not experts in your field to understand what you want to do. Remember, and some people don't know this, that when you write a grant application, you have a committee of, maybe 4, 5, or 6 that are actually, going to approve or, look at your application and approve it. It is very possible that maybe only one person or even nobody in that committee is an expert in your field, all right? And therefore, they're going to rely on external reviewers. But apart from that, they are also going to rely on their own understanding of your proposal. How did they understand your proposal? All right? And therefore, it is very important, okay, to expand by simply giving a hypothesis for the experiment, all right? This is what I expect to happen if I do this particular experiment. It helps a lot reviewers, okay, who are not experts in the field. Now, of course, in terms of designing your research, okay, it is very important to show complexity while at the same time emphasizing why the approach is necessary and the best to achieve the stated objectives. Okay, again, remember that, again, I always emphasize, all right, most of the committee members who are going to say yes or no to your application may not be experts in your field. Okay, always have that back of your mind. So when you're writing your research design, okay, you need to emphasize why is it that you are using that approach. Don't assume that, oh, I'm going to do mass spec, okay? Tell the committee why that mass spec is necessary, okay, as part of you achieving your objective, okay? Tell them why, if you don't do mass spec, okay, you will not achieve the study objective. All right. So very important, okay, to show why your approach is necessary. Justify your choice of experiments. Justify your choice of methods. All right. To tell them, yes, this is why I chose this method, because it is the best method that will allow me to achieve the goals that I've stated, okay, earlier on. All right. So don't assume, please, that they know why you are doing this. No. Even if you are just doing protein determination, okay, or you are doing fat determination, or you are sequencing a gene, tell them, why is that necessary, okay, as part of your goals. Okay, how will you mitigate risks? Okay, like I said before, it is very important sometimes not to play too safe when you're writing that grant application. Okay, be bold. Okay, like they say here, in America, okay, the future is for the bold, not the weak. All right, okay, or not the faint-hearted. Be bold in your application. Okay, propose big stuff. All right, that really people will read and say, you know what, wow, this is great. But then, okay, remember that such bold experiments, okay, come with risks. And therefore, the committee wants to know that you actually know that there are risks. If you just propose a bold experiment, and there's no risk mitigation, all right, then the committee will say, you know what, yeah, this is great, but he has not told us, or he or she has not told us, okay, what will happen if this particular approach fails. All right. And therefore, you need to provide backup route for high risk experiments. All right. Say, okay, at the end, okay, if this fails, this is how I'm going to, go to make sure that I still realize my, objectives. All right. Your methodology, it must be feasible, of course. All right. You have to propose, okay, methods that can be carried out. All right. Okay. Don't propose methods that or that in 5 years can never be done. Okay. It must be comprehensible by a non-expert. Again, I always emphasize to my students, don't assume, okay, anything when you are writing a grant application. Don't assume that, oh yeah, everybody understand how they do protein analysis. Everybody understand how they sequence genes. So I don't have to. No, 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 no. Okay, be very careful how you write it. All right, make it in a very simple language. All right, so that even somebody who's not an expert can appreciate that method as, oh yeah, this is what this person wants to do. I know what they want to do, and I know how what they want to do connects with the objectives. All right, remember, your methodology, okay, cannot be parallel to your objectives. Very important. Your methodology basically must be, in synergy with your objective, because it must show the committee or the reviewers that these methods will allow me to realize the objectives. So very important. And like I said, I just said that must directly address the objectives. Otherwise, then then you have a parallel method that really basically has nothing to do with your objectives. If student or postdoc training is involved, if you have applied, if as part of the grant application, you have requested for money, okay, to train a student, to train a postdoc, all right, then it is very important to allocate the experiments, all right, okay, and say, okay, this particular objective, this particular experiment is going to be done by PhD student number 1, all right, this other experiment is going to be done by PhD student number 2, okay, and then this last experiment is going to be done by my postdoc, all right. But remember that the allocation of experiments must be reasonable and convincing. All right. If you tell me a postdoc is simply going to do proximate analysis, okay, I will tell you no, okay, because that is something even an MSc student can do. All right. And therefore, when you are allocating experiments, okay, it must be reasonable for the level of the student training. All right. You cannot tell the committee you are going to allocate experiments that basically a PhD student can do, and say, oh, I'm going to hire a postdoc to do that. No, all right, then it's not convincing, it's not reasonable, all right? So it's very important to be very clear who is going to do what, okay, in your methodology, all right? And then in terms of the, experiment allocation, make sure it is convincing, it matches the training level, okay, of the trainee. And then, of course, we have budget, all right? Now, of course, budget sometimes can be very straightforward. But again, this is where a lot of applications fail. Many people don't know this, all right? Okay, you can write a very good application, okay, good experiments, all right, good method, excellent hypothesis, excellent goals, and you mess it up with your budget, all right? Because sometimes some committee members get really very, very ticked off because your budget is so unreasonable, okay, that they say, you know what, I cannot trust this person with money, all right? So requests must be for only allowable expenses. Remember that most funding organization, they have allowable expenses. So it means that you must do your work within the allowable expenses, all right? Like I gave an example before that you can ask for, maybe to purchase a land or to buy a car, all right? Okay, that is only if, okay, the, grant application or the funding agency allows for that, all right? Don't request for something you know is not allowable, all right? Even if you're going to say, you know what, I'm going to pay for this one from another grant, all right? But if it is not allowed by this particular grant, don't put it there because it doesn't count. It's not allowed. So even if you're going to pay for it from another source, it doesn't matter, okay? Because for this application, that particular expense does not matter. It's not allowed. So don't put, okay, expenses that are not allowed. Do not exaggerate your expenses. The amount you are requesting for must match the level of experimental details. It is very important for you to know that, people who are reviewing your application, they are fellow scientists like you. Okay, they know how much a pipette costs. Okay, they know how much, a 4-liter acetone costs. All right, and therefore, if you tell me, okay, you give me budget that I know this are simply exaggerated. Okay, this is too much. If you're telling me you're going to buy a pipette for, $10,000, all right, I know you're crazy. That's not possible. All right. So you must be very, very reasonable in your request. Don't exaggerate because again, committee members, reviewers, they are scientists. They have an idea of the cost of these items. So if you exaggerate, they'll just let you know, no, this is not possible. Okay. Provide brief justification for each item. Okay. Tell the reviewers why the proposed work cannot be successfully done or may experience undue extensive delays without requested item. Okay, remember here I'm talking about fairly major items. I'm not talking about, say, reagents, okay? But if, for example, you are asking for a major item like, say, a small centrifuge, you're asking for, some that cost, a lot of money, okay? Provide a justification. Why is it that I need this particular item, okay? Tell the committee or the reviewer, you know what, if I don't have this number of pipettes, okay, automatic pipettes, all right, it is possible that my student training can be affected because students need pipettes and they cannot be fighting for pipettes, all right? And therefore, instead of 2 pipettes, I need 5 pipettes, all right? Then the reviewer understand, oh yeah, you know what, that's reasonable, okay? You don't want students to be fighting for pipettes, all right? So justify the need for an item. Again, I'm not talking about minor items like, acetone or sulfuric acid. No, major items that are part of your budget, justify them. Why are they needed? How do they contribute, okay, to you achieving your objectives? And what will be the consequences, okay, if you don't have them. It's very important, okay, because even if you just tell me they are needed, okay, and you don't tell me what will happen if you don't have them, well, I could assume that, well, you can go to the next lab and get it. But if you tell me, if I don't have this particular item, I cannot achieve my objectives as stated, then I understand that really this item is very critical for your work and I will approve it. Okay. Now, if you are requesting for personnel stipend, again, explain why the work cannot be successfully done without each training. Okay. Why are you asking for a PhD and not an MSc? Tell me why. What is the PhD going to do that the MSc student cannot do? All right. Why do you need a postdoc or a technician? All right. Justify, okay, your requests for trainees. Okay, not just only, experimental items. When you're going to train people, tell the committee why they are very necessary. And this has to do with the fact that say, you know what, these particular experiments are very complex, okay, and therefore I need somebody who already has an experience in the lab. I need a postdoc to do this, okay, because it's a very complex experiment, okay. It cannot be really done by a master's or a PhD, and that is why I'm asking for a postdoc. Then it's reasonable. But if you just tell me I need a postdoc, well, what for? Why? Okay, what is the justification? So you need to justify your request for each training, okay, that you're asking for money. All right. Major supplies indicate which parts of the work require the requested item and why. All right. Okay. Which experiments depend on these items? Why are they necessary? Why is it that you cannot do without them? Okay. If you are traveling, okay, justify your travel. Very, very important here. Actually, I don't know of Nigeria, but in Canada and the US, if you have travel budget items, you must justify why you have to travel. Okay, travel is in two categories. Travel can be as part of the research itself. For example, people who go to the farm or they have a research collaborator in another city and they have to go there. Okay, then that's understandable. And you explain why you need to go to that city. Okay, but if you are requesting money, okay, to attend the conference, okay, don't just say I'm going to, I need to attend the conference. Provide the name of the conference. Even, if you know you might not eventually go there, but that is the type of conference that you will go. Okay, give an example. Name the conference. Oh, next year I'm going to go to the Institute of Food Technologies conference. I'm going to go to the Nigerian Institute of Biochemical Society conference. All right. Provide the name of the conference. Okay. But more importantly, don't give the idea that you're just going there to have fun. No. Tell the committee, what are you going there to do? They don't want to give you money just for you to travel and go and have fun. No. All right. Tell the committee what you're going to do there. Do you intend to present your work? All right. Okay. As a poster, as an oral presentation. Okay. Why is your attendance necessary? Why does the committee have to approve money for you to travel to that conference? All right. Okay. So you must justify all these, requests. Okay. Why are you going there? Okay. But more importantly, indicate you are going to present a paper or you are going to present the results of the work. You are going to present a poster, things like you're going to participate in a symposium. Okay, these are all, justifications you can produce, that you can provide. Now, in terms of publications, now because of open access regulations, you can ask for money. All right, when you are, writing a grant proposal, the budget you can include, okay, publication fees. All right, it's allowed. All right, but if you're going to do that, it's very important for you to provide the name of the journals that you intend to publish the results. Okay, because again, they're giving you the money. They want to know, okay, where is the money going? All right, and most importantly, justify your choice of journal. Okay, it is very important for you to know that the choice of journal can be very, very important when approving grant applications. All right, if I know that you're going to publish your journal you're going to publish your work in a journal that really, has no weight, nobody raised it, I'm not going to approve the money. All right. If it is not an open access journal, okay, provide a strong reason for publishing the work, especially if the funds are coming from taxpayers. All right. If this is a publicly funded proposal, why should you use that money, okay, and then hide the results in a journal that is not open access? You need to tell the committee why. All right. Because these days, the emphasis is on publication in respected open access journals. Very important. Okay. And so the other part that is very important, of course, is your CV. All right. Because your CV tells the committee, all right, that yes, you have the qualifications to conduct this work. I always equate it to say, when you want to drive a car, all right, of course, you must have a driver's license. If you don't have a driver's license, you have no business, driving a car. Or if you have no pilot license, you cannot fly a plane, all right? And so the committee needs to look at your CV and say, yes, we are confident that this person has the background knowledge, they have the academic knowledge, they have the required productivity, okay, to convince me that yes, they will do this work as they have proposed. All right. So your CV must be submitted, of course, using the appropriate formats. Okay. Remember that some funding agencies require specific formats for your CV. Other agencies don't care. You can submit your CV in any format. But please, if the funding agency requires specific format, please follow that format. All right.
Oh,
Provide information to demonstrate your research expertise in the proposed field of work. Like I said, if okay, you are going to fly a plane, okay, as a pilot, I must have evidence that yeah, you have qualification to fly a plane. All right. Tell the committee in your CV, okay, that you have the research expertise. Okay, convince them that yes, I can do this work. All right. And of course, if possible, especially when you're asking for money to train students, then tell me, have you trained students before? Because if you have never trained a student, why would I give you money to train new students? All right, isn't it? Okay. So, and this applies to experienced researchers. If you're a new researchers, of course, even if you have not trained before, I can see from your CV that you have just graduated. You have just received your PhD. So I'm not going to, say, okay, tell me whom you have trained before. But if you're an experienced researcher, you're a full professor, all right? And I can barely see the number of trainees in your CV, then why would I give you money, okay, to train students? You have no, you don't have a reputable experience training students. So why would I give you money? I won't approve it. All right. And so that is why when in your CV, you can highlight, you can underline, you can asterisk, you can make it a bold font, the names of your trainees. Because then by simply looking at your publication record, okay, I can say, oh yeah, this is his training, this is her training. I'm confident that yes, this person has a very, very good record of training, and therefore I will approve it. Okay. Provide the information if a particular publication receives specific attention. This is very popular here. I don't know of Nigeria, but if I'm reviewing an application here and I see that this publication was chosen as a page, as a cover page for the journal, wow, that tells me this is good stuff. All right, this person is doing good work. All right, it's being recognized as excellent work. All right, that is a notch for me. I'm already convinced. Okay, or if your publication was repeated in another publication, all right, or received additional press coverage, okay, or the student received an award because of their work, okay, or you have you publish something that really, the technology is being used by other colleagues. Tell me, okay, tell the committee, all right, let us know that this are what you are doing, because that tells me, okay, that your work, okay, is high quality, all right? It's good. You are doing really work that not only you are benefiting, but other people are benefiting from. And that is a very, very good push for the committee to approve your application. If allowed, okay, sometimes they allow it. Explain your role in multi-authored articles, all right? If you have an article where you have 4 authors, 5 authors, 6 authors, what did you do there? Because again, maybe you are just hanging on, maybe they just put your name because you are you're a good friend of the leading author. Very important for you to indicate what was your role, what did you do, okay? Otherwise, people just look at it and say, yeah, there are 5 people here, your name is in the middle, maybe you didn't do anything really. It doesn't count, all right? Provide the names of past trainees and what position they are now, okay? Because again, this tells me the quality of your training, all right? If I see a list of, I trained 3 PhD students, 2 of them are professors, one of them is an R&D scientist in the industry. Oh wow, I'm wowed. All right, okay. So tell the committee the quality of your past trainees in terms of what are they doing now. All right, that will convince the committee here that you have really a high quality research program that deserves to be funded. If available, explain your activities regarding international research collaborations. All right. This is very important because again, research collaborations, especially at the international level, it can also be at the national level, all right? Okay, any collaboration you have, emphasize it because that tells the committee that your skill, okay, is beneficial to other, all right? That means you have a skill that is in high demand, okay? People want to work with you, okay? And that tells me that you are a good worker, you are a good scientist because people want to work with you. They recognize that you have a skill that can help them, all right? That in your CV tells me that yes, okay, this person is a high quality scientist, all right? Emphasize things like invited speaker presentations, all right? Sometimes when I read, grant application, the CV, they just list conference attendance. So what? We all attend conferences, all right? It doesn't really count very much, okay? Because it's something we all do. Rather, emphasize those that you are invited. Okay, I was invited to give this. I was invited to give this because the invitation is a recognition of your scientific excellence, your skill in that particular area. So when you are invited, it's telling me as a reviewer that yes, this person is a really excellent scientist. He's been invited based on his record, okay, on his excellent record. And therefore, I will value your CV more, all right, than just listing conference attendance, all right? Provide information on contributions to professional bodies and journals, not as a reviewer, because we all review, okay? Again, when I read application, they say I review for 20 journals. So what? We all do reviews, doesn't count, okay? We all do reviews, all right? What counts is, are you an editorial board member? Are you an editor, all right? Have you led special issues? Have you edited special issues, all right? Those are things that count very, very much. Not just listing, I'm a reviewer. Well, we all review, okay? What's the point, okay? But tell me, did you go further than that? Okay, are you an editorial board member? All right, how do you contribute to the journal? Or do you plan, do you edit special issues? All right, things like that, all right? Indicate them, okay? But apart from that, okay, when I say professional bodies, I also mean your professional organizations, okay, biochemical society, physiological society, food science society. Do you hold any office there? Okay, have you ever held any office there? What do you do to contribute to increase quality of your professional organization? Because it tells me, okay, the type of scientist you are. If you just work in your lab, you have no role in professional organizations, it tells me you are very selfish. Okay, you are not ready to volunteer your skills, okay, to enhance your professional body. All right, I will be less, inclined to approve your application because I say this, nobody benefits from the skills of this guy. He's just in his lab, his food science society don't even know him. All right. So it's very important to contribute and to say it. Okay. So some take-home points in terms of research. Remember, it's a competition. Okay. Write your best application always. Reviewers are not always expert in your field. Okay, please always have that back of your mind. People forget that. Okay, put your thoughts and ideas in a simple yet convincing prose. Try to avoid technical jargons. Okay, I remember I sat on a committee about 5 years ago, and we all read that application where we say, okay, what exactly is this guy trying to do? Because we couldn't understand it. It was full of technical jargons and okay, that tells you where the application ended. All right, it was a triage. Okay, we didn't know what he was trying to do. As much as possible, use a vertical rather than horizontal approach to write your research proposal, like I've said before. And that means focusing on creating new knowledge rather than complementing or simply adding to existing knowledge. Know the details of progress and existing scientific information in your area of work so that you don't propose to duplicate what has been done. I read an application for the African science, African, what was it called, research, yeah. And I said, hey, this has been done already. I saw many journals. Hey, why is this guy proposing this? This has been done already. It doesn't make sense. Why do you want to duplicate what has been done? Okay, simply because the work was done on cassava, but now you're proposed to do the same work on millet. What's the point? All right, you're only changing the substrate. Okay, in terms of the technical details, they're the same. All right. Do not exaggerate what you can do. Remember that committee members and reviewers are also scientists like you. They know your capacity. They know the capacity of science. They know what can happen. Okay, so don't exaggerate. Okay, otherwise it will shoot you down. All right. They acknowledge risks, but provide convincing information on why the risk is necessary, because there's going to be high scientific reward. And then, of course, provide mitigating actions should that approach fail. Have a very strong record of scientific achievements, of course, publication in very good journals. Avoid journals that nobody reads. Okay, we all know them. Okay. And then avoid grammatical and spelling mistakes. Again, it just doesn't make sense. Always good to have a minimum of 2 colleagues read your grant application. I do that all the time here. One of them should be an expert in your field, and then the second person should actually be a non-expert, okay, but with adequate experience to understand the proposal. Because, like I said, the committee members can be non-expert in your field, all right? So let your colleagues read your grant. Don't be scared of criticism, all right? Otherwise, by the time it gets to the committee, then they declare the error, it's too late, okay? Budget must be reasonable and justified. Provide strong evidence that the amount requested is critical for the success of those work. It must also contain allowable expenses. I've said it already. Your CV must contain adequate information to convince reviewers that you have both the knowledge and the skills to conduct the proposed work. Otherwise, then it's basically a fishing experiment. Avoid undue reliance on the use of expertise or collaborators that are not listed in your application. Again, this is something that I've seen in many applications I've reviewed. Okay, all right, so somebody wants to do mass spec, but they don't have mass spec in their lab. Oh, by the way, I'm going to collaborate with my colleague XXS who has a mass spec, but that colleague is not on your application. So why would I believe you? All right, because if that colleague is on application, that means your colleague has accepted to work with you. All right, so it's very important. All right, don't rely, okay, on collaborators that are not listed on your application. So that basically covers in terms of the writing of grant proposal. And I know that I took a lot of time. I'm going to briefly just talk about some of the academic opportunities that I'm aware of. Again, this is not exhaustive, please. All right, this is not an exhaustive list. There's so many of them that you probably need 2 days to cover them, which we don't have. So In Canada, which I know very well, of course, because I work here, one of the main opportunities that are available, especially for external people who are not Canadians, is the Canada Researchers Program. All right. We have two types. We have the tier one, which is the one I currently hold. Is for established researchers like me. You get $1.4 million over 7 years, so that's $200,000 per year. This one is very unlikely that somebody from outside. It's not, it's not impossible. I've seen them hire like from, India, from I think Australia, from Germany. They've hired tier one chairs, but you must be really, really, really very, very good at what you do. The one that is really very open is the tier two, the emerging scholars. So these are people with usually less than 10 years post PhD experience. So you get $500,000 for 5 years. This usually is open. Remember, the Canada Research Chair is open to everybody. It doesn't mean it's for only Canadians. You can apply from anywhere. For the tier two chair, it simply means that you have really demonstrated you're going to be a leader of tomorrow. So you have really very good record. All right. Even recently, we hired a tier two chair, a Nigerian from South Africa. He was teaching in South Africa, and he came here as a tier two chair. So again, just tell you it's not impossible. All right. And then of course we have the Banting postdoctoral fellowship. The Banting postdoctoral fellowship is for early career researchers, usually no more than 3 years of PhD degree award. If it's more than that, you need to justify why they should give you the award. So you get $70,000 per year for 2 years. It's a non-renewable type of fellowship. You can only be held once in a lifetime for 2 years. And it's simply because the demand is so high, right? We have so many applications. But for the Banting postdoctoral fellowship, you must be nominated by a Canadian university. So which means that you must submit your application to a Canadian university. The university do their own internal competition, and then they choose, I believe no more than 3 or 4 that then forward to Ottawa for consideration. This is a highly competitive type of fellowship. The emphasis on quality of your public, not quantity, is the quality of your publications, including service to the community. And this is where, if you remember, I said in terms of your CV, your service to your profession. All right. If you're applying for a Banting fellowship and you have never been part of any professional organization or hold any office or contributed to community service or volunteer service, forget it. Even if you have the best qualification in the world, because both are considered, not only the quality, but how have you served your community in terms of leadership. Very, very important. So please emphasize this to your students. International Development Research Center, of course, IDRC usually fund very large grants, okay, for collaborative research. It's not easy. I know it's not easy to get, but I mean, we had this grant with Osun State University, OAU Ife. This was about 5-6 years ago. We had a very big, I think about $4 million, with those universities to look at vegetables planting and cultivation and utilization. So again, IDRC projects can be very rewarding in terms of you'll be able to do a lot of work, all right, and also improve your infrastructure, because a part of the IDRC can allow you to equip your, buy medicines, buy vehicles, pay for land, all right. The money is huge, all right. So please note this. And then the US, of course, you have Fulbright, the Fulbright Fellowship. You have 2 main types, the visiting scholars. So basically, this pays for you to conduct your research in a US institution. So you must first have, the consent of the professor, all right, and then you apply, all right. And then they have the scholar in residence. This one is basically teaching. Okay, so you go there, You teach some courses for one term, and that's it. You can apply to the US Embassy, okay, in your country. Selections usually are done first at national level, and then the US Embassy will then forward the recommended candidates to the Fulbright board. So take advantage of this, please. I've seen many Nigerians come to the US on the Fulbright scholarship. And then, of course, remember that there are many non-government organizations, okay, many. Bill and Melinda Gates, disease-based research sponsors, this like diabetes research, Alzheimer's research, pharmaceutical companies, many of them, all right? What many people don't realize that the fact that you're in Nigeria, for many of these, doesn't mean you cannot apply. You can apply. All you need to do is write a good application. All right? Many of them don't have restriction in terms of nationality, okay? They are looking for good application. It doesn't matter where it comes from, all right? So take advantage of the internet. Look at the requirements for these grant applications. Okay, please apply, all right? Do a good job, okay? And these types of applications, can fund, this type of proposal can fund postdoctoral fellowships. They can also fund research grants, all right? And lastly, in the EU, of course, we know that you have, if you go to that website there, you have the funding opportunities there. The only thing is that for the EU, most are for EU citizens, okay? But you can collaborate with an EU citizen, and some of that money will come to your lab. And the money is very good money, all right? In Germany, of course, we know about the DAT, okay, the Humboldt, okay? So please take advantage of all this. These are funding opportunities that really can help you build your lab, build your reputation as a scientist, okay? And then we have the African Academy of Science, which came about just a few years ago. I did some reviews for them last year. So you have the African Research Initiative for Scientific Excellence, ARISE. If you go to their website, all the details are there in terms of when they fund applications. The only thing is, I think for the ARISE program, I think it's mainly for early career, like emerging scholars, all right? Yeah, I think it's mostly for emerging scholars, not the established scholars, okay? And I think that is basically what I have. And again, thank you so much all for, hanging around with me for the past 1 hour. I appreciate your time, and I'll be very, very happy to take your questions. Thank you very much. Yes, please. I think I'm not sure who is in charge of.
Hello.
Okay.
Yeah.
Professor
Hello.
Go ahead. Yes. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Professor Rotimi Aluko. This is time extremely well spent, and at the top of the hour, we were about 100 of us listening to you for such a beautiful, down to earth, presentation. And we can't thank you enough for such a great time.
Thank you.
This is time for Q&A, and already on the platform, I can see Hannah Etta from Uyo or Calabar. We can unmute her, and then she would take, and then we'll take Mohammed, Mohammed and Danliman Mohammed. So in that no special order, we'll take Hannah Etta, and then Danliman Mohammed. We'll take your questions, but others can also post their Q's and A's and on the chat box, which we can take. I have 3 persons who would want to give very brief questions, in that order. Hannah, and then Danliman. Thank you.
Good evening, everybody. Am I heard?
Yes, we
Yes,
can
go
hear
ahead.
you.
Okay. Good evening, Prof. Thank you so much for that presentation. When you were talking about the budget, you said it's necessary. Sorry, I am Dr. Hannah Eka from Cross River State University in Calabar, not you. So you were saying in the budget section.
Sorry, we can't hear you, unfortunately.
Hello?
Yeah.
Hannah, would you, if you don't mind, please just type because you appear to be in a place where there's some distraction.
Yeah.
Just simply type your question because it's cracking here.
Can't hear you.
Huh? Type your question about, the budgets, and then we'll read it out. Then Liman, can you go ahead while she types?
Okay, thank you very much for the opportunity. My name is Ndalima Mohammed Banki. I'm a lecturer from Federal Polytechnic in Bida, also PhD student from one of the Lee City University. Prof, we really appreciate you for taking us through the grant research access and also how to publish a paper. We do appreciate you for that. This is a very elaborate, and we thank you. Just to give a brief question based on what actually I wanted to ask is that for my aspect, I've been reading grant research based on what you have actually explained, but I was not being successful for all this while. And especially in terms of Nigeria, where they have national research funds, that you are supposed to write a research grant about it. And sometimes they don't normally provide a feedback, the reason why your research grant has not been successful. So my question is based on that. I don't know whether if there is anywhere that we can have access, our lay or our hands-on, to access guides where to write this grant research aside from the one that you have taken us through. I think that one will be able to help us better, because I became discouraged when I keep on writing about let me say grant research, and I became unsuccessful. I don't know, because what you have actually explained based on maybe the requirements, I can begin to see that yes, there is a lot that I need to put in my work that will make me to be successful. So, but if we can also make a request for you to guide us through where we can lay our hands or access, where we can be able to get a guide aside from the one that you have taught us. Thank you very much. I think this is my observation on my question.
Okay. No, thank you very, very much, Dr. Mohammed. To be sincere with you, if you go to the internet, there are several. If you just type how to write a grant application on Google, you'll probably find, so many websites that give you ideas. But again, I think the problem is that you have to remember that each funding opportunity is different. All right. And so you have to be very careful what you get on the internet. All right. Each funding application is different. What they're looking for is different. The requirements are different. And so it is very difficult to have, like it's just a one size fit all, and that's why I even said in my opening remarks that, look, this is just based on my personal experience, having served so many countries and so many committees. My suggestion will be that, one of the, and I'm being honest here, one of the ways which many of us here have been very successful in grant writing is simply by allowing input from our colleagues. Okay, many people are very scared of criticism. All right, but I always tell people, it's better to get criticism when you can still fix it than get criticism when you cannot fix it. Okay, when you get a negative result. So when you write a grant application, okay, identify 3 people, okay, not only in your department, but in your faculty. Let them read it, plead with them to read your application, okay, and then give you feedback. Believe me, if people do that more often, all right, you will see that the quality of the application will start to increase because you get ideas, all right, that you never thought of. You identify errors that you never thought of, all right? Because you know, it's like I say, it's a blind side. When you write a grant application, there's a blind side that you don't identify. It's like when you are driving a car, right? There's a blind side, all right? Same thing. Okay, that is why you need to allow your colleagues, okay, to let them read it. Don't worry about it. Say, oh, they're going to be very nasty. That's okay. Take those nasty words, turn them into positive things. Okay. Otherwise, unfortunately, there's just no single pathway where you can just, you know, get and, you know, write a good application. Okay. Get more input from your colleagues.
I said, is there any criteria that one will consider, that they normally consider for one to become an expert before you should be able to at least become successful in the grant? Because I think
and that Lima, I would give a specific comment, since most of the grants you applied for was for the National Research Fund of TED Fund, and I have been a reviewer and still a member of that committee. So I might be able to give you some specific suggestion, you know, but that would be after at some point, you know, with respect to this. And I think I understand the picture.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Yeah, very good. And again, that has to do with my recommendation that, look, pass your application to other people. Let people, for example, if you know people who are committee members, send them your application and say, please, sir, can you, you know, give me some ideas about what I've written? Okay. All right. Next person.
Next person would be Adamu Ibrahim, and you know, your quick thoughts, please.
Thank you very much, Prof. My question is about the gender balance. In case if you are not alone doing the research and you included a female, maybe you are a male, and then you included females, maybe you are 5 or 6 in number. Is there any percentage of gender balance in the case of research grant? Then the second question is, in case if you have over budgeted your budget for the research, is there any way that they can still consider you, or you must cut it to the range of the required amount that they considered for the grant?
Okay, thank you, Adam.
My name is Ibrahim Adamu from Federal University, Gusau.
Yeah, thanks so much, Adamu. Those are great questions. The first one, gender balance. I don't think there's a specific number to say, okay, you must have such a number of, you know, men and women on an application. But I would say it's good to have at least a representation of both sexes, right? You know, having a research group that basically consists of men, you know, will probably not be looked at very well. Actually, you know, like in this area of the world, you know, at least you want to have a representation. But I don't think there's a strict number in terms of, oh, you must have 2 or you must have 3 of these. I don't think so. I think what matters is having a representation of both gender. In terms of budget, I think it depends on the on the funding agency. To the best of my knowledge, most funding agencies will not entertain the request for additional money. All right, apart from what you have been allocated for a certain year. All right, that is my knowledge. Because once you are given a grant, you know, because you are the one that proposed it, you told us it's going to cost you X dollars. All right, you know, you remember the agencies also, they have their own budget. They've budgeted an amount for this year, all right, or for next year. So you cannot come back and say, oh, you know what, I finished the money. Yeah, so I don't think it's very advisable to run over budgets. To the best of my knowledge, most of I would say 99% of the funding agencies will not give you any additional money, unfortunately. Yeah. Otherwise, if many people do it, then the whole thing will be a mess. You know, what stops other people to say, oh, you know what, okay, my money also finished. You know, so and that is why the agencies are very, very specific. We give you this amount, that is it. You cannot come back and say it was not enough. Okay.
Thank you, Prof. Aluko. Before we take the other people that are online, there is someone who has indicated if you make a budget for a grant application and you are finally awarded, but when you get to the market, there are inflations. And I would not to overstep my liberties, but I would just simply make sure that I respond to this, particularly, with respect to the National Research Fund of TED Fund. You can make some concession, especially from your personnel costs, where you are the beneficiary. But any cost that would increase in excess of 500,000 naira, you must write to the grant agency to say that we had quoted for a specific equipment and the cost or the exchange rate has changed. But the wisdom there would be, that while you are doing, you can make a slight adjustment right from the time of quotations, to include maybe 10 to 15%, to take care of some of these contingencies. I think it's part of good elements of budgeting as well, and nobody would bring you down if your choice of equipment is not way up, above reasonable limits, but there would be concession for just slight variation to cater for, I mean, remember that the reviewers are scientists themselves, so they know that there are inflations, but when you put something that is supposed to cost you 50,000 and then you're putting 150,000, you see, it's way up unrealistic. But something that is costing you 50,000 and then you decide to make it 65, is realistic within limits that can be taken. Not to overstep my liberties, Professor Aluko, if you have some additional thoughts with this, I'm sure you can add.
Yeah, no, I totally agree with Professor Kala. I think that even here, what we do is that actually for infrastructure, what we do is that when we are applying for infrastructure grants, okay, remember that infrastructure grant, it could take a year or two before you actually buy the equipment. So the funding agencies here allow you to add like 10 or 15%.
That's right.
Of the cost, because they know that it's everywhere. The cost is not static, all right, isn't it? Because of inflation. So you can definitely, add 10, 15%. But I think the question is, after you got the money, again, it might be possible in Nigeria, but here, once you get the money, that is it. You have, if you're not able to stay within what you asked for, too bad. Unfortunately, things are very, very strict here. Yeah.
Yeah, even here we don't allow budget variations. The only thing is that occasionally you want a thermocool, but then you are writing that will not substantially change the quality of the research, and then say, okay, this is maybe a brand that will still give you the same results, or you want to collaborate with one other person, or you are taking out of the money that you are supposed to earn as your own allowance, and then you are topping to it. The agency could give you such concessions.
Yes, no, I agree. That's reasonable. Yeah.
So we'll take Oyela Kim. In this order, let me mention it so that before Oyela Kim, before you have the floor, after we take you, then we take Aminu Shitu, then Anthony Ekpo, and Ekundayo Samuel. If the network permits us, then we'll get Hannah Etta back on stage again. In that order, please.
Thank you very much. I'm Dr. Yolaki. I work with Nigerian Top Law Research Institute. Prof, thank you for the presentation. But I noticed that writing and getting grants is mostly given to those in the universities. What happens to those of us that we are in the research institute here? Do we have a platform that we can actually key into? That is what I want to ask, Prof. Did you get my question, sir?
Yes, I got it. Yeah, I got it. Yeah, again, I was speaking from my experience here. I don't know of how things work over there, but again, that's why I said that when you want to apply for a grant application, look at the eligibility. All right. You have to go and look at the eligibility list, in terms of who will be funded, what will be funded, and how it's going to be funded. All right. Unfortunately, most of the funding opportunities, like you said, are for university researchers. I don't know why I didn't make that law. It's probably just because a lot of the funding agencies recognize the fact that, a lot of, most of the research, are done in universities. But yeah, I don't know. You just have to check the eligibility of the funding agency. Unfortunately, for most funding agencies, you cannot change the eligibility. It's what they have decided. Um, but again, that is the benefit of the internet, right? Okay, if you look for opportunities straight away, first thing you should do is check the eligibility, all right, and see whether, even if you are not working in a, in a university, you can apply. One of the ways, I can talk from this of here. One of the ways people who don't work, in universities here, are able to get grants is by being appointed as adjunct professors. So if you get, say, I work at the University of Manitoba, and then there's a research scientist, say at at a research institute somewhere, okay, they can be appointed as an adjunct professor at the University of Manitoba. This is they don't pay them salary, all right, but that adjunct status allows them to apply for grant applications just like a professor like me. Okay, so maybe that's something you can also consider in Nigeria. For example, you have universities around you. You can be appointed as an adjunct, maybe at University of Ilorin or University somewhere. Okay, because once you are appointed as an adjunct, it is seen as if you're a member of that university. It's just that you are not a salaried employee. That's the only difference. It is assumed that as a professor, as an adjunct, you help them to teach, you do research. And so because you do research, then you can apply for grant applications and they will approve it. So maybe that's that might be a way for you to overcome that current barrier, is by seeking adjunct appointment at nearby universities.
Thank you, Prof. I think maybe what we'll do is that we'll take the entire questions and then let me share some of the questions that are there on the platform so that we can have almost the entire questions at one scoop. Here in Nigeria, for the National Research Fund, which is the last funding basket, is that for research persons that work with research institutes, they can collaborate as second level partners. So you have your principal investigator from a tertiary institution, which is funded, eligible, and then you come in as a second level partner. So the challenge now would be, you need to get, your partners properly. If, for example, we understand the area to which he is, then we can link him up with relevant scientists that are in his area so that they now partner together, and then, they do their bidding of for the grants. But the questions that we have on the floor is that, we have, for example, someone who would want to know, let me get to that particular point. There is someone who has raised an observation about what about the situations where multiple applications for research grants, were submitted to different funders on the same research topic. And I think this is a real question and a real situation where we sometimes get also repeated, questions. And let us also get the questions that are being raised by Minushitu was the one who was asking about multiple applications. And let me mention, there's a particular, I've actually evaluated for 1 or 2 Nigerian grant writing, agencies, and we've seen that times without number. Anytime there is going to be a call for proposal, one particular individual would write the same proposal, or even a proposal that he has been granted, have been awarded by another agency to just look for it. I think that is ethically wrong. Can we have Ekpo and Aminushi to share their thoughts so that, even for the time difference, we thank Professor Aluko for sparing his time to be with us, but, not trying to shut down the house, but then, can we have your questions very briefly?
Yes, yes, thank you very much. My name is Dr. Anthony Ekpo. I'm of the Federal University of Agriculture in Makurdi here in Nigeria. First of all, I want to thank Prof for the wonderful and excellent presentation, and then the eye-opening he has given. And then secondly, too, I want to also thank him publicly for accepting to be a collaborator in one of the applications I'm currently writing. Yes, to my question now, Prof. For a grant that annually gives a particular amount of money as the annual grant, and then is there any point where you will need to give a breakdown of the expenses in terms of maybe if you need to do experiments within the time frame of the award, or whether you want to do a kind of survey? At what time do they actually need a breakdown? If the award is for an annual maybe stipend or something of that nature. Thank you so much.
Yeah, okay, if I understand your question very well. In terms of breakdown, when you're writing a grant application, it depends on how the funding agency asks you. Most of them will have you to have a breakdown for every year. And even for each year, there will be certain items that you have to list, how much it costs. But after you get the grant itself, again, depends on the grant application, the funding agency. After you get the grant itself, it depends on the policy of the funding agency. Like here, I'll give an example here. I have several grants. One of them, like a national grant, they really don't, the only request for every year, I tell them how much I use for materials and method, how much for materials and supplies, how much I use to train students, how much I used to travel. That's it. Whereas there's another grant who basically asked me, believe it or not, I have to provide the invoice for every chemical that I purchased. All right, I have to provide, okay, the payroll record for each trainee that I paid. So every detail, okay, that funding agency requires it. So my point is that I think it depends on the funding agency. Some are very, very strict in terms of what they require for accounting purposes. Others very, very general. My advice would be for you to be familiar with the accounting principles of the funding agency so that you don't run afoul of their law. All right, know what they're going to need, okay, so that you can provide that information when it's time for you to give an account. But again, it simply depends on the funding agency. There are different methods of accounting for what you have. Yeah. Okay, Dr. Shitu.
Thank you.
Aminushi, has your question answered? Dr. Shitu. Well, let me fill up some gaps, for the National Research Fund, which has a minimum window of 2 million and above to 50 million, which is the ceiling, provided by TED Fund, and it is there's a call for proposals annually. The first rule, which Professor Aluko has mentioned to us, and I don't want us, even if we don't remember anything in today's meeting, we should take very seriously, is first know the rules. What does the funding agency provides for? If they say this application should not exceed 1,500 words, you know, they mean it should never exceed 1,500.1 word. And that's what it is. For the National Research Fund, I can tell you here, more than 40% of people who apply for NRF of TED Fund simply lose out because they have not obeyed, you know, the word limits. Once you put 1,506 words, 1,200, 1,700, 2,200 words, nobody even gets to read your proposal because in the first instance, you have not met the criteria that is specified. If you apply and the ceiling is 150 million, which is the maximum limit, and you decide to be very smart to say that you want 51 million, even if you have a source of that 1 million, you know, the grant would turn you off because it would say that the total maximum limit of the research is supposed to be 50 million. Additionally, the timeline, like the TED Fund research funds, you know, it is limited for a period of 24 months. What that means is that any proposal that would exceed a closeout period of 24 months would not be funded. So there are minor technical details that one must read in between the lines and ensure that, you know, you follow the rules. If they say, okay, equipment, you cannot budget for equipment beyond 25% of the total sum of what you are looking for, and you decide to budget 30%, you will be knocked out. So these are things that I believe that Professor Aluko, you know, so graciously today, you know, carried us through. Honestly, Prof, you know, you've done excellently well, you know, so calm at your presentations, you know, and such that if we had followed through your presentation, it would make the difference between success and failure in not only our national research grants, but international, you know, grants. Remember that it is competitive. Remember that you are competing against others. And let me mention, for example, the case of Nigeria. Maybe that would appeal more to my audience. You have audience of about 5,000, you know, entries at concept notes level, and they would be screened down to about 800. And the 800 would be screened down to about 250 would be invited for physical, you know, defense. And after the end of the physical defense, maybe 220 would be eligible for funding. Remember, it is very competitive. So if you are competing against such people, what you need to be very careful about: careless spelling mistakes, careless typographical mistakes. Somebody wants to write 46 million, decide to write 46 billion. How would you take such a grant? So these are some of the suggestions that I feel that not to water down what my elder brother, you know, very respected, you know, faculty member of the University of Manitoba, you know, has shared with us this evening. But, you know, I strongly feel that this might just add some little pinch of salt to the presentation he has made.
No, thank you so much, Professor Kala. Yeah, you nailed it correctly. Yeah, minor things make applications unsuccessful. You will be surprised. Minor things. They just say, you know what, this guy is not serious. Yeah. Okay. Next question here. I'm not sure who's next.
Yeah, I think it's Akundayo.
Okay.
Thank you so much, Prof. I've been a fan of yours, following you on LinkedIn, and I'm so happy that I'm able to see you physically via Zoom. Yes, I will just talk more about my question actually around budgets. Because I heard someone spoke about over budgeting, but I had an issue maybe through one research that we actually conducted, And what we budgeted for, eventually, when we go to the field, our case study was not actually rare, and we couldn't go to the number that we actually planned for initially. And I remember that there was an argument since we said this is what we will spend. I think it's not good that some people might say that we actually under budgeted, that we should just leave it that way. But I was thinking that since what we said we are going to look for, we didn't see it on the field. Why not spell it out? But I just want your own input to this. Do you think that it is good that since we said, for example, we are looking for 50 cases of this kind of cancer, maybe in a hospital, and when you got there, you couldn't find more than 5, and you have already said, okay, I'm going to spend this and this and this and this on this 50. So what do you advise as an experienced researcher? Thank you so much.
Okay, so I'm assuming you already got the grant, right? They're talking about where you have the grant and then.
Yes, you got it. Yes.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I mean, again, you have to remember the word when you apply, it's called a proposer, isn't it? It's a proposer, all right? It's not as if it's cemented in stone, okay? Now, there are 2 ways to deal with it, okay? You can have a reasonable justification for, not doing, to the level that you proposed. But at the same time, you can also have an very unreasonable justification, okay? Like the case you just gave me now. If you come back to me, if I'm part of the committee looking at your report, and you are telling me that, oh, you know what, we propose to screen 50 50 cancer cases, but then when we actually got the application, we can only find 10. I would deem it a very unreasonable type of excuse. Because why? Before you write your proposal, I expected you to know on the average the number of cancer cases around you, right? Okay. And so when you tell me you are going to look at 50, I will have assumed that, oh yeah, these guys are very familiar with the epidemiology of cancer in around. Oh yeah, they can get even more than 50. So when you come back and say, oh no, we couldn't find that, then that's very suspicious. It can actually ruin your reputation. Okay. If, for example, you came back and say, oh, instead of 50, we only found 40. That's acceptable. But to come back and say, oh, you only found less than 10. When we propose 50, yeah, I don't think that's good. So again, that speaks to the fact that and that's what we say when you're writing an application in terms of the background information, because I would have expected in the background information that information is provided, say, okay, generally, this is the rate of this type of cancer in this area. It has been established. Or even if there is no literature data, okay, you can get such information from a hospital and say, on the average, how many of these cases do you get a year? You can provide it and say this information came from, this hospital. Yeah. So, but yeah, I think that would be a very bad excuse, to be sincere. If it's somewhere here, you probably not get that funding anymore. All right. And remember that wars go around very quickly. People who serve on multiple committees, next time they see your application, oh, they say, yeah, I remember this guy. He proposed it, he never did it. He came back with an excuse. So let's be very careful what we propose. It's a proposal, but at the same time, it should be reasonable. If you cannot achieve everything, it's understandable that you may not achieve 100%, but it should be very, very close to what you propose. Otherwise, then it's totally, yeah, I'll be really concerned about, the case you just gave to me, to be sincere. Yeah.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. I'm sure with, for our members that are looking for, you know, the presentations and you know, my brother Sherton would give us explanations with respect to that, because we have a platform and we would want to encourage our members to be very active. You know, in one of our previous presentations, you know, Professor Bamiro, who was a founding chairperson for the National Research Fund, was one of our speakers. And we have a lot to gain, you know, by sticking to the platform and getting, you know, daily, you know, daily, you know, inspirations and questions and answers and resource materials, you know, in that respect. I would want to call the convener who might want to give us further, you know, vote of thanks. But I can't thank Professor Aluko enough, you know, for such a great time and great evening that we just had. Prof, are you there?
Hello?
Hello, are you there?
Yes, thank you very much.
I think we have exhausted our questions. Maybe you draw the curtains to a close.
Okay. Once more, I want to appreciate Professor Aluko for his time and noting the time difference between Nigeria and Canada, and with your busy schedule, we want to appreciate you. But one more thing, Prof. Prof, are you hearing me, sir?
Yes, I'm hearing you. Yeah.
Okay. We have been receiving feedback from the platform. People couldn't join because of the maximum participant. People are requesting for your slides. So we want to plead that you find a way of sharing the slides. I know this is being recorded. So one of us in charge of the technical will work on that. Through your permission, we can share the recorded version of this webinar. And some people are requesting for the slides. So we like to crave your assistance, sir, in that regard. So, well.
Yeah, that's not a problem. I'll send you the slides.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. So on behalf of the AfriScience team, we want to appreciate you once more, Prof, for your time and taking us through. We had, as Professor Kala said, the first webinar was delivered by Professor Emeritus Professor Bamiru, and yours has also added some points at the international level. We appreciate you, sir. We also want to thank the chairman, Professor Kala, for accepting to chair this webinar and to coordinate the question and answer. So we want to appreciate all the participants and the members of AfriScience Network. We pray that the good Lord will continually be with us and grant us progress in our research endeavors. So this is a webinar too for AfriScience. So next month, there will be another webinar. That will be webinar 3. At the appropriate time, it will be announced by the chief admin, Dr. Chitu. So by this, I want to bring the webinar to a close. Thank you very much, everyone. We appreciate you. Thanks a lot.
Thank you. God bless Nigeria. God support Nigeria.
I think, Dr. Soweto, I think we need to give a lot of thanks. So I think we need to give a lot of thanks to Professor Kala for you know, steering the webinar, you know, really in such an excellent manner. So thank you so much, Professor Kala, for sparing
My pleasure, sir. My pleasure, sir. My pleasure.
I want to thank all of you. I know that we couldn't answer all the questions, and I know, I mean, just because of time, but I'm going to provide my email address. I'm going to type it in shortly in the chat box. Please, if we didn't answer your question, feel free to contact me by email, and then I can, you know, sort of have, you know, a conversation with you by email. Yeah, I'm going to just put in my my email address here. So please feel free to contact me. Or actually, I think Dr. Shred also has my email address. You can contact him. Yeah. So yeah,
thank you very much.
So yes, please feel free, and all the best in your research applications. I know it's not easy. Like I said, Don't be discouraged. Trust me, nobody has 100% record. Even the Nobel laureates, go and ask them. They don't have 100% success in grant applications. So you just have to keep trying. All right, and good luck.
Thank you very much, Prof. Thank you so much. So everyone, enjoy your evening. Yes.